You are sitting in the quiet hum of your room late at night, staring at the soft blue glow of the glass screen in the palm of your hand. You swipe, you scroll, you refresh, and yet an unfamiliar, quiet, hollow emptiness settles in your chest. And the modern world has offered you the illusion of connection, serving you 1,000 voices, 1,000,000 opinions, and an endless stream of updates every single second of the day. But in the noise of it all, you have lost the quiet brilliance of your own mind. You feel exhausted, chronically distracted, and mentally fragmented, jumping from one app to another, wondering why your best ambitions remain stuck inside a digital void while life races past you. The most terrifying truth of our time is that we are starving for wisdom while being overfed on information. You are giving your attention, your energy, and your life force away to algorithms designed to keep you asleep, while your true potential is waiting for you to reclaim your focus. What if the secret to unlocking peak performance was not about learning how to do more, but about having the courage to consume less? What if the masterpiece of your life requires you to step out of the digital current and master the beautiful simplicity of a calm, clear, and concentrated mind? If you are ready to stop giving your power away and take absolute command of your focus and destiny, I invite you to subscribe to this channel today. Join us in this movement of transformation and let us unlock the extraordinary potential of a quiet, deep, and minimalist life. Chapter 1. The Anatomy of the Digital Void. You are standing at the edge of a colossal, sprawling metropolis built from neon light and infinite glass. Above you, a sky made of screens flickers with the colors of 1,000 notifications, each one calling out to you, demanding a piece of your soul. You hold a heavy glowing slate in your hand, feeling the vibration against your skin. You tell yourself that this window into the universe is your connection to the world, your lifeline to success, and your source of truth. But look closer. The glass is not a window. It is an endless, bottomless, and silent mirror of your own fragmented desires. You are overthinking whether you should read the latest headline, whether you should post another update, or whether you should respond to a message that does not matter. The weight of this invisible world is breaking your concentration, leaving your best ideas unbuilt and your mind tired. This is the anatomy of the digital void. This is the silent trap where your potential goes to sleep, and this chapter is about waking up from the trance. The relatable problem we face every single day is continuous partial attention. We are not truly present anywhere because we are partially everywhere. You sit down to do deep, meaningful, and creative work, but the tiny red dot on your screen calls to you like a siren in the night. You check it for just 1 second, and in that second, 15 minutes of your life are gone, swallowed by a vortex of opinions and images that have absolutely nothing to do with your life's mission. We blame our lack of progress on a lack of time, but the truth is, we are not short on time. When we are short on attention, your attention is the most valuable currency you possess, and you are spending it on things that yield no return on the investment of your soul. Psychologically, the digital void exploits the dopamine reward system of the primitive brain. Every time you pull down to refresh, your brain experiences a tiny, unpredictable hit of pleasure, not unlike a slot machine in a casino. You do not know what you are going to get. An important message, a like from a stranger, or a completely useless piece of news. The unpredictability makes it addictive, and before you know it, your brain is conditioned to run away from the discomfort of deep, linear focus. To achieve peak performance, you must understand that the human brain was not designed to process the input of 8 billion people every day. It was designed to do deep, adding meaningful work in quiet, focused spaces. You must transition from being a passive consumer of algorithmic noise to an active creator of your own reality. Imagine you are an ancient alchemist standing in front of a heavy iron door that leads to your inner sanctum. On the other side of the door lies your greatest potential, your deepest focus, and the peak performance you have been seeking for years. But to get to the other side, you must put down the heavy, glowing glass that is weighing down your hands. Letting go of the screen feels uncomfortable at first. You might feel a sudden surge of panic, a fear of missing out, or a deep sense of restlessness. But that discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is the withdrawal symptom of an overstimulated mind. And it is the sign that the chains of the algorithm are beginning to stretch and break. Let me tell you the story of a man named Julian. Julian was a brilliant financial analyst who spent his entire day navigating complex charts and data streams. But when he came home, the digital void did not let him rest. He would lie on his couch, endlessly scrolling through political debates, sports highlights, and social media feeds, feeling a quiet, gnawing anxiety in his chest. He could not sleep, he could not read a book, and he could not look his family in the eye without thinking about his next notification. He was living in a constant state of vibrational entrainment, matching the frantic frequency of the internet. And then something shifted. One evening, Julian's phone battery died in the middle of a scroll. He felt an immediate, one sharp wave of panic in his gut, followed by an unexpected, strange, and beautiful silence. He looked around his room. He saw the dust motes dancing in the light of the setting sun. He heard the sound of the rain against the window pane. In that silence, Julian realized that he had been living in an artificial world, while his real life was waiting for him in the room. He decided to turn off his phone every evening at 7 o'clock and leave it in the kitchen. At first, Julian found himself pacing the room, looking for his fix. But after a few days, the mental fog began to lift. He started reading thick, historical biographies. He started sleeping 7 uninterrupted hours every night. His focus at work skyrocketed because his prefrontal cortex was no longer exhausted by the noise of the digital void. When Julian realized that peak performance was not a matter of taking more energy drinks or using more productivity apps, it was a matter of removing the drain on his attention. The lesson for you is this: your mind is a sanctuary, not a public square. When you clear the noise, you don't lose the world, you find yourself. You stay focused not because you are special, but because you have removed the distractions that keep you fragmented. You are no longer a victim of the algorithm's agenda. You are the architect of your own focus. As you move through your day, practice the digital sunset drill. At a specific time every evening, turn off your devices and put them in a drawer. Do not look at them until the sun rises. Feel the discomfort and watch it pass. You are the ship, not the storm. In the next chapter, we will explore the paradox of connectivity and the myth of the busy mind. Chapter 2. The paradox of connectivity and the myth of the busy mind. You are sitting at a long, beautiful wooden table in the quiet corner of a library. The sun is streaming through the tall, stained glass windows, and the scent of aged paper and wood fills the air. You open a notebook and place a fine, pointed fountain pen on the white page. You are ready to write the first chapter of your future, the blueprint of your next great achievement. But right at that moment, your wrist vibrates with the arrival of an email, a message, and a news alert. You reach for the glass screen and look at it. Suddenly, the quiet space of the library disappears, replaced by the chaotic energy of 10,000 opinions. You are connected to everyone, and yet you are deeply and profoundly alone. This is the paradox of connectivity. This chapter is about the myth of the busy mind. The relatable problem we face is the false equivalence between being busy and being effective. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor. We tell ourselves that because we answer 50 emails a day, attend 6 meetings, and respond to every notification within 30 seconds, we are successful. We are terrified of being still because we fear what our minds might say to us in the silence. We use the digital noise to drown out the quiet, deep, and uncomfortable questions about our purpose, our relationships, and our true direction. We overthink our days until we are too tired to do the real, deep work that changes our trajectory. Psychologically, the busy mind is a defense mechanism, and it is much easier to be busy with trivial tasks than it is to be focused on the hard, creative, and transformative work that defines peak performance. When you are busy, you are always in a state of reaction. You are the ball in a pinball machine, bouncing from one obstacle to another, never choosing your own direction. But peak performance requires intention, concentration, and long periods of deep work. It requires you to be in charge of your schedule, and your focus. Imagine you are a magnificent deep water well. If you have 1,000 tiny buckets drawing water from the well every hour, the water never gets a chance to pool, to clear, and to become deep and pure. The well stays muddy and low, but if you cap the buckets and allow the water to accumulate, the well becomes clear, deep, and abundant. Your mind is that well. When you allow external demands to draw your attention in 1,000 different directions, your capacity for deep thought becomes shallow. Staying calm and performing at your peak means capping the buckets. Let me tell you about a woman named Elena. Elena was an executive director for a large environmental non-profit. Her days were filled with endless meetings, constant Slack messages, and a flood of emails that never stopped. She felt like she was always putting out fires, always running behind, and never quite catching up. She would go to bed with her phone on her chest, waking up every hour to check for messages from international offices. She was busy, but she was not effective. And then something shifted. Elena's team was assigned a new project that required deep, focused, arts and creative thinking, writing a 5-year strategy document that would reshape their funding model. She knew she could not do it while being connected all day long. She made a bold decision. She blocked out 4 hours every morning from 8 until 12, during which she put her phone in airplane mode and closed her email client. No one could reach her except for true emergencies. For the first few days, her team panicked. They didn't know what to do without her immediate feedback. But as the days passed, something incredible happened. Her team started making their own decisions. They became more autonomous, more creative, and more confident. And Eleanor wrote a strategy document that was so clear, so compelling, and so insightful that it doubled their funding within 6 months. Elena realized that being connected didn't mean being helpful. By disconnecting from the trivial, she had elevated her impact. The lesson for you is this: peak performance requires you to be unavailable for the non-essential. When you are constantly connected, you are acting as an assistant to someone else's agenda. You must become the director of your own life. You must stop overthinking whether you are letting people down by not responding right away. When you give yourself the gift of deep, uninterrupted time, you are not just helping yourself, you are doing your best work for the world. To practice this, engage in the 4-hour deep work block. Tomorrow morning, pick one single important task that moves the needle of your life. Turn off all notifications, hide the phone in a drawer, eat and work on that task with absolute concentration. You will be amazed at how much you can achieve in 4 hours of deep work compared to 40 hours of fragmented reaction. And then something will shift. You will notice that the constant hum of anxiety in your chest starts to fade, replaced by a deep sense of satisfaction. In the next chapter, we will explore the psychology of the notification and how to break free from the digital panic. Chapter 3: The psychology of the notification and the digital panic. You are walking down a quiet city street in the early hours of the morning. The air is cool and crisp, and the streetlights cast long, soft shadows against the brick walls. You feel at peace. Suddenly, a high, piercing chime breaks the silence. Your phone screen lights up with a message. Your heart jumps in your chest, your breathing quickens, and your hand reaches into your pocket before you even know what you are doing. Your mind is flooded with adrenaline and cortisol. You have just experienced a digital panic attack. This chapter is about the psychology of the notification. The relatable problem we face is the hijacking of our nervous system by external stimuli. Notifications are designed by companies to trigger the same fight or flight response that our ancestors felt when they saw a predator in the bushes. They do this because they know that fear, anger, and urgency are the most effective ways to capture your attention. You think that by checking the notification you are staying informed, but you are actually allowing your nervous system to be traumatized dozens of times a day. And this is why you are exhausted when you get home from work, not from the work you did, but from the constant shocks your system sustained. Psychologically, the notification is an intrusion on your cognitive sovereignty. When a chime goes off, your brain is forced to stop whatever it was doing and evaluate the new threat or opportunity. This process is called attention residue. Even after you dismiss the notification and go back to your work, a part of your mind is still thinking about the message. It takes an average of 23 minutes to regain deep focus after a single interruption. If you get 20 notifications a day, your mind is never in a state of deep work. It is always recovering from the last interruption. Imagine you are a master calligrapher. You are sitting at your desk, dipping your brush into a beautiful and deep well of black ink and preparing to make a single, perfect stroke on a scroll of handmade paper. Just as your hand is about to touch the paper, someone blows a loud horn directly into your ear. Your hand shakes, the ink spills, and the scroll is ruined. This is what you do to your mind every time you allow a notification to interrupt your day. To achieve peak performance, you must alchemize the noise into silence. Let me tell you about a man named David. David was a software engineer who worked on high-frequency trading algorithms. His work required deep, sustained, and flawless concentration. But David was a slave to his notifications. He had alerts for every message, every stock movement, and every news flash. He felt like his heart was constantly racing. He was overthinking every line of code, checking and rechecking his work, and he was exhausted by noon. And then something shifted. David read a study on the effect of interruptions on the prefrontal cortex. He was shocked to realize that he was spending more time recovering from interruptions than he was writing code. He decided to perform an experiment. He turned off all notifications on his phone and computer. No dings, no chimes, no banners. He set up his communication apps to be checked only twice a day, once at 11 in the morning and once at 4 in the afternoon. At first, David felt an intense fear of missing something critical. He felt twitchy and anxious, as if he were missing a limb. But after a few days, the anxiety disappeared, replaced by a deep, beautiful, and clear silence. He found that he was finishing his work by 2 in the afternoon, while with energy to spare for his family and his own creative projects. David had alchemized the digital panic into flow state. The lesson for you is this: you are not a machine that needs to be constantly updated. You are a biological organism that needs peace to thrive. Staying calm and performing at your peak means setting strict boundaries around your nervous system. You are the one who decides when to let the world in, not the other way around. To practice this, engage in the notification audit. Go into your settings right now and turn off every notification except for direct calls from your closest loved ones. All social media, all news, all promotional alerts, turn them off. When you take control of your alerts, you take control of your time and your mind, and then something will shift. You will feel a profound sense of calm, one as if you have dropped a heavy iron backpack after a long hike. In the next chapter, we will explore the law of the mirror and the projection of peace. Chapter 4. The Law of the Mirror and the Projection of Peace. You are standing in the middle of an ancient hall lined with magnificent silver mirrors. Wherever you turn, you see a version of yourself. You see your face, your posture, and your expressions. You look at one mirror and you see someone who is tired, anxious, and overwhelmed by the digital noise. You look at another mirror and you see the person you are becoming, clear, focused, and unshakable. Soren, a wise philosopher, once said that the world is a mirror that reflects your internal state back to you. If you are angry inside, you will see enemies everywhere. If you are calm inside, you will see teachers in every situation. This is the law of the mirror, and it is the key to maintaining focus in a world full of noise. The relatable problem we face is the tendency to let other people's chaos become our own. We read an angry comment on the internet, or we listen to a colleague's frantic updates, and we immediately mirror their frequency. We feel our heart rate increase, we get defensive, and we want to strike back. We think that if we are not upset, we are not taking the situation seriously. We are exhausted because we are spending our days reflecting the chaos of the world instead of radiating our own calm. Psychologically, this is known as emotional contagion. Your nervous system is designed to synchronize with the most stable nervous system in the room. If you are the most stable system, the chaos around you will entrain with your calm rather than the other way around. But to do this, you must build an internal anchor. You must realize that other people's reactions are just information about their own state of mind, not a command for you to react. You must move from being a reflector to being a refractor of reality. Imagine you are a deep, clear lake high up in the mountains. The surface is calm, glassy, and still. A strong wind blows across the valley and throws a heavy rock into the center of the lake. If you are a shallow puddle, the water gets muddy, the spray goes everywhere, and the entire ecosystem is disrupted for hours. But if you are a deep lake, the rock hits the surface, creates a few ripples, and then sinks into the depths where it is silently absorbed. The lake doesn't fight the rock, it just absorbs the energy and returns to its natural state. This chapter is about becoming the lake. But let me tell you about a woman named Sophia. Sophia was a customer service manager for a global technology firm. Her days were filled with calls from people who were angry about lost data or delayed shipments. For years, she mirrored their frequency. She went home with headaches, feeling angry and resentful. She was overthinking every interaction, wondering if she should have been firmer or softer. And then, something shifted. She learned about the law of the mirror. She realized that the customer's anger was not about Sophia. It was about the customer's own fear of losing their data. The next day, when an angry man screamed at her over the phone, Sophia took a slow, deep breath and imagined that she was looking at a mirror. She saw the fear and the vulnerability beneath the man's rage. Instead of getting defensive, Sophia spoke in a calm, steady, and low voice. She listened to the man without interrupting. She acknowledged his frustration without accepting his anger as her own. And because she refused to mirror the man's energy, the man's voice gradually softened. By the end of the call, he was apologizing for his tone and thanking her for her help. Sophia had neutralized the chaos with her own calm. The lesson for you is this: you cannot be upset by someone else's mirror unless you choose to look at it. When you stay calm, you become unshakable. You realize that your state of mind is your private property, and you do not have to let anyone else enter it without your permission. You stay positive because your energy is derived from your internal source, not from the external world. To practice this, I'd engage in the mountain meditation. The next time someone tries to drag you into an argument or a frantic situation, imagine that you are a huge, ancient mountain. The wind of their anger blows against your rock face, but you do not move. You simply stand. You are stable, you are certain, and you are calm. And then something will shift. You will find that you no longer fear difficult people or chaotic situations. You will walk through the world with a quiet, certain confidence that calms everyone around you. In the next chapter, we will explore the alchemy of the sacred pause. Chapter 5, the alchemy of response and the sacred pause. Between the moment something happens to you and the moment you respond, there is a tiny, microscopic sliver of time. In that sliver of time lies your entire destiny. This is the space. Well, most people don't even know the space exists. They live in a state of automatic reaction. Someone insults them, they get angry. The internet goes down, they get frustrated. They are like a piano. If you hit a key, a specific sound must come out. But you are not a piano, you are the musician. This chapter is about mastering the alchemy of response. It is about widening that space until it becomes a cathedral of choice. It is about realizing that staying calm isn't about feeling nothing. It's about choosing everything. The relatable problem is the limbic hijack. When a stimulus enters your environment, it travels first to the amygdala, the emotional, primitive part of your brain. This part of you is fast, loud, and very old. It wants to protect you, so it offers you a pre-packaged reaction. It offers you rage, fear, or avoidance. And if you are not conscious, you will identify with that emotion and act on it instantly. This is high-friction living. You are constantly cleaning up messes caused by your own automatic pilot. To stay calm, you must learn to intercept the signal. You must move the information from the primitive limbic system to the advanced prefrontal cortex. You must move from reacting to responding. Psychologically, this is pattern interruption. To stay positive, you need a sacred pause. The moment you feel that heat in your chest, the moment the limbic alarm goes off, you must do something physically different. You take a deep belly breath. You clench and release your fists. You describe the room around you. This interrupts the automatic circuit. It buys you the space. In that space, you ask yourself a sovereign question. Is this reaction consistent with the person I am becoming? Or will this response matter in a year? This inquiry wakes up the executive mind. It alchemizes the raw lead of reaction into the gold of intentionality. Imagine you are a surge protector. The world is full of power surges, sudden bursts of negativity, chaos, and stress. If you are just a copper wire, that surge travels straight through you and fries your internal circuitry. You short circuit, you break down. But if you are a surge protector, you absorb the voltage without transmitting the damage. You have an internal buffer that neutralizes the shock. Staying calm is the act of being that surge protector. You receive the energy of the world, but you refuse to propagate it. You end the cycle of chaos at your own border. Mama, let me tell you about a man named Julian. Julian was a conflict mediator who worked in high-stakes corporate disputes. His job was to sit in a room with people who hated each other and find a way forward. One day, during a particularly toxic session, one of the clients stood up and screamed a vile insult directly into Julian's face. The room went dead silent. Everyone expected Julian to defend himself, to shout back, or to walk out. And then something shifted. Julian didn't react. He didn't even blink. He sat in the silence for a full 10 seconds. He observed the anger in his own body, and then he let it go. He looked at the screaming man with a calm, steady gaze and said, "I can see you are in a lot of pain. How can we use that energy to solve this problem?" The man deflated. The power of his anger had no place to land. Now, because Julian controlled the space, he controlled the room. He alchemized a moment of violence into a moment of breakthrough. Julian realized that the person with the most calm always has the most power. The lesson is this: your peace is your responsibility. No one can make you angry without your consent. They can offer you anger, but you do not have to accept the gift. When you react, you give away your power. You grant the external world remote control over your internal state. When you respond, you keep the remote. You stay positive, not because the situation is good, but because you are committed to goodness. You realize that a calm response is the most efficient way to manage a negative situation. As you move through your day, practice the 5-second buffer. Whenever you feel provoked, wait for 5 seconds before you speak or act. In those 5 seconds, witness the impulse to react. See it as a suggestion, not a command. Choose a response that serves your long-term peace. You are training your brain to value sovereignty over catharsis. You are building the cathedral of choice. And then something will shift. You will start to feel a sense of unshakable confidence because you know that no matter what the world throws at you, you have the alchemy to transform it. You are no longer scared of the storm because you have mastered the pause. In the next chapter, we will explore the alchemy of the negative and how to use the dark to find the light. Chapter 6. The Alchemy of the Negative. You are standing in front of a massive ancient forge. The air is thick with the scent of burning coal and hot iron. In your hand, you hold a jagged, rusted piece of scrap metal. This metal represents your bad days, your failures, your losses, and the biting words of those who have doubted you. Most people look at this scrap and see trash. They want to throw it away, to hide it, or to pretend it doesn't exist. But a master alchemist knows a secret. You cannot make a sword without fire, and you cannot build a soul without weight. This chapter is about the alchemy of the negative. It is about realizing that staying positive isn't about avoiding the dark, it's about using the dark to find the light. The relatable problem we all share is that we view pain as an interruption. We think, I would be happy if only this hadn't happened. We treat our struggles like bugs in the system rather than features of the design. This creates a state of resistance. And in the world of psychology, there is a fundamental law. What you resist persists. When you fight against a negative emotion or a difficult circumstance, you are actually giving it your energy. You are making it solid. You stay stressed because you are trying to push away something that is already here. To stay calm, you must move from resistance to transmutation. This is the core of alchemy. You don't try to get rid of the lead of your life. You change its vibrational state into gold. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, how is this happening for me? This isn't just a clever play on words. It is a profound shift in cognitive appraisal. It is the moment you realize that the obstacle isn't in the way, the obstacle is the way. Imagine you are a world-class sailor. And do you want a sea that is always calm? Do you want a world without wind? No. A sailor who only knows how to navigate calm waters is not a sailor at all. They are just a passenger. The sailor needs the wind. Even if the wind is blowing in the wrong direction, the sailor can use a technique called tacking. By angling the sails just right, the sailor can use the very force that is trying to push them back to propel themselves forward. They alchemize the opposition into momentum. Let me tell you the story of a woman named Kintsugi, or rather, the philosophy named after her. In ancient Japan, when a valuable piece of pottery was broken, it wasn't thrown away. Instead, a master craftsman would take the shards and join them back together using a special lacquer mixed with pure gold. The resulting bowl was more beautiful and far stronger than the original. The break was not hidden, it was highlighted. It became the most valuable part of the piece. I once knew a man named David who lived this philosophy. David was a professional musician who lost his hearing in his right ear due to a sudden illness. For a musician, this was the ultimate negative. It was the lead that threatened to crush his soul. For a year, David lived in a forest of why me? He was bitter, he was angry, and his calm was non-existent. He looked at his broken hearing as a sentence. And then, something shifted. David stopped fighting the silence. He started to pay attention to the vibrations of the music in his chest. He realized that because he couldn't hear the high-frequency noise as clearly, he was becoming more sensitive to the rhythm and the soul of the sound. He started writing music that was deeper, more percussive, and more emotional than anything he had created before. He tacked into the wind. He used the silence as his gold. Today, David's music is played in concert halls around the world. If you ask him, he will tell you that he didn't succeed in spite of his hearing loss. He succeeded because of it. He alchemized his greatest pain into his greatest gift. The lesson for your life is this: a positive mindset is not a happy face. It is a functional perspective. It is the ability to look at a failure and see a lesson. It is the ability to look at heartbreak and see an expansion of your capacity to love. You stay calm because you know that nothing is wasted. Every negative is just unprocessed raw material for your future success. When you adopt this mindset, you become unshakable. Why? Well, because you are no longer afraid of bad things. You know that whatever the world throws at you, you have the forge to turn it into iron. To practice this, you must engage in reframing rituals. When something bad happens today, a missed deadline, a rude comment, a broken appliance, don't react. Alchemize, take a breath and say, this is the lead, where is the gold? Look for the one small benefit hidden in the problem. Maybe the missed deadline allows you to produce better work. Maybe the rude comment reveals the insecurity of the other person and strengthens your compassion. Maybe the broken appliance is a chance to practice patience. And then something shifted. You will find that your stress starts to evaporate because there is nothing for it to hook onto. You have become a universal solvent. Or you take the acid of the world and you turn it into water. You are moving from fragile to anti-fragile, a state where you actually grow from chaos. In the next chapter, we will explore the anatomy of the social mask, and we will learn how to stay calm when the world is judging you. Chapter 7. The anatomy of the social mask. You are standing on a stage in a vast, dark theatre. The spotlight is blindingly bright, and you can feel the weight of 10,000 eyes watching your every move. You are wearing an elaborate, heavy mask made of porcelain and silk. It is beautiful, but it is suffocating. You are terrified that if the mask slips, the audience will see the real you, the you that is tired, the you that is uncertain, the you that doesn't have all the answers. You are performing a character of calm while your true self is screaming for air. And this is the social mask, and it is the single greatest drain on your inner positivity. The relatable problem we all face is identity exhaustion. We spend so much energy trying to look okay that we have no energy left to actually be okay. We overthink our social interactions. Did I say the right thing? Do they like me? What if they find out I'm a fraud? We are staying calm on the outside while a war is raging on the inside. This is performative peace, and it is a lie. It creates a deep, hollow sense of negativity because you are betraying yourself every single day to please people who aren't even paying that much attention. Psychologically, this is the spotlight effect. We overestimate how much others are noticing our flaws. We think everyone is looking at the cracks in our mask, but the truth is, everyone else is too busy worrying about their own mask to notice yours. They are the protagonists of their own movies, and in their world, you are just a background character. Realizing this is the ultimate liberation. It allows you to move from self-consciousness to self-presence. You stay calm, not because you are perfect, but because you have stopped hiding. Imagine you are a mirror. If you are a mirror, you are constantly reflecting the expectations of others. If they are happy, you feel you must be happy. If they are critical, you feel you must be defensive. You have no color of your own. You are empty. But what if you were a diamond? A diamond doesn't reflect the light, it refracts it. It takes the light in and filters it through its internal structure, sending out its own unique brilliance. The diamond doesn't care what the source of the light is. It stays a diamond. Let me tell you the story of a woman named Claire. Claire was a high-stakes corporate lawyer. She was the queen of the social mask. She was always polished, always aggressive, and always right. She was the perfect professional. But inside, Claire was crumbling. She had chronic insomnia and a negative internal monologue that never stopped. She was terrified of being seen as weak. One day, in the middle of a high-pressure boardroom meeting, Claire made a mistake. She misquoted a vital piece of legislation. In the past, she would have lied, deflected, or masked it with arrogance. Her heart was racing. She could feel the spotlight burning. And then something shifted. Claire took a deep breath, took off her metaphorical mask, and did the unthinkable. She smiled, leaned back, and said, "You know what? I just made a mistake. I got that wrong. Give me a moment to correct it." The room went silent. Her colleagues stared, but instead of the judgment she expected, something miraculous happened. The tension in the room melted. One by one, her colleagues started relaxing. By admitting her vulnerability, Claire had authorized everyone else to be human too. She realized that her mask wasn't protecting her, it was isolating her. She became calmer than she had ever been because she had nothing left to hide. The lesson for you is this: authenticity is the shortest path to calm. When you stop trying to be positive and start being real, the stress of performance vanishes. You stay positive because you are aligned with truth. Well, you realize that judgment from others is usually just a reflection of their own internal pain. It isn't about you. When you realize it isn't about you, you stop taking things personally. And when you stop taking things personally, you become invincible. To practice this, engage in micro doses of vulnerability. Today, when someone asks how you are, don't just say fine if you aren't. Say, I'm a bit overwhelmed today, but I'm working through it. Drop the mask in small ways. Own your mistakes immediately. Ask for help when you need it. You will find that the audience in the theater doesn't boo, they cheer. They have been waiting for someone to be real so they can take off their masks too. And then something shifted. You will feel a lightness in your chest that you haven't felt since you were a porcelain face. Next, you will realize that staying calm is easy when you aren't carrying the weight of a porcelain face. You are no longer a performer, you are a presence. In the next chapter, we will explore the anatomy of attachment and the art of letting go. Chapter 8. The anatomy of attachment and the art of letting go. Imagine you are standing on the deck of a ship in the middle of a violent storm. The waves are crashing over the bow and the wind is howling like a wounded animal. In your hands, you are clutching a heavy iron anchor. You believe that if you just hold on to this anchor tight enough, you can stop the ship from tossing. You think the anchor is your security, but the anchor isn't even touching the ocean floor. It's just hanging off the side, pulling the ship down deeper into the swells, making it harder to stay afloat. Your knuckles are bleeding, your back is breaking, and you are overthinking how to hold it better. This is attachment. This is the false belief that holding on is the same as staying safe. This chapter is about the art of letting go. It is about realizing that staying calm is a matter of opening your hands. The relatable problem we face is mental grasping. We attach our peace to specific outcomes. We will be okay if we get this deal. We will be happy if they like me. We will be calm if the weather is good. We are anchored to things we cannot control. When the deal falls through or the person leaves or the weather turns, we shatter because we have fused our identity with an external event. We overthink the loss because we believe the thing was us. But you are not the anchor. You are the ship. The anchor is just weight. Psychologically, this is known as identified attachment. To stay positive, you must practice non-attachment. And this is not indifference. It isn't that you don't care. It is that you care without clinging. You move from, I must have this, to, I would prefer this, but I am whole regardless. This psychological distance creates a safety net for your calm. When you aren't clinging to the results, you can enjoy the process. You become unshakable because you have nothing to lose that isn't already temporary. You stay positive because your joy is internal, not transactional. Imagine you are a river. A river doesn't hold on to the rocks it passes. It doesn't cling to the beautiful meadow on its banks. If the river tried to stop and hold a moment, it would become a stagnant pond. It would rot. The power and the purity of the river come from its flow. It experiences everything, but it attaches to nothing. It accepts the rain and the drought with the same fluidity. Staying calm is the act of becoming the river. You allow the events of life to flow through you without obstructing them with your ego. I want to tell you about a man named Arthur. Arthur was a collector of rare books. His entire identity and happiness were stored in his library. He was constantly anxious about humidity, fire, and theft. He was positive only when he was looking at his collection and negative the rest of the time because he was worried about protecting it. He was a slave to his possessions. And then something shifted. A flood hit Arthur's town. In a single afternoon, his library was destroyed. The anchors were gone. For weeks, Arthur was in a state of total collapse. He felt empty. He felt finished. But as he sat in his empty room, he noticed something strange. For the first time in 30 years, his anxiety was gone. He had nothing left to protect. He realized that Arthur was still there, even without the books. He felt a lightness he couldn't explain. Arthur discovered that letting go wasn't a loss, it was an unburdening. He started living in the now rather than worrying about the past he was storing on shelves. He became radiantly positive because he was finally free to be instead of have. The lesson for you is this: everything in the material world is on loan to you. Your job, your health, your possessions, even your loved ones. They are gifts to be enjoyed, not anchors to be clutched. When you accept the transience of life, you stop fighting reality. You stay calm because you know that change is the only constant. You appreciate the sunrise precisely because you know it will set. This perspective deepens your gratitude and kills your fear. As you move through your day, practice the open hand meditation. Literally open your hands and say, I appreciate what I have, but I release my grip on the outcome. When you find yourself overthinking a potential loss, remind yourself, I am the ship, not the anchor. Practice letting go of small things, a grudge, a plan that changed, a minor disappointment. Each release is a muscle contraction that you are learning to relax. And then something will shift. You will find that you have more energy because you aren't spending it all on clinging. You will experience a spontaneous positivity that doesn't need a reason in the next chapter. We will explore the architecture of adaptive resonance and how to command the room with your presence. Chapter 9. The architecture of adaptive resonance. You often think of influence as something you do to others, a set of words, a tone of voice, a power play. But true charismatic dominance is not an external act. It is an internal frequency that forces the environment to tune itself to you. This is adaptive resonance. It is the ability to remain so grounded in your own reality that the world around you has no choice but to vibrate at your speed. Most people are reactors. They enter a room and unconsciously mirror the tension, the pace, and the energy of those already there. But the leader is a resonator. They do not mirror the room. They command the room to mirror them. This chapter is about the architecture of that resonance. It is about realizing that your presence is the tone that sets the tune for everyone else. The psychology of emotional contagion proves that humans are biologically wired to synchronize with the most stable nervous system in the group. If you enter a high-stress meeting with a frantic energy, you are simply adding fuel to the fire. You are resonating with the chaos. But if you enter that same meeting with a deep, slow, unshakable calm, the other nervous systems in the room will begin to entrain with yours. Their heart rates will slow, their breathing will deepen, they will look to you, not because you are shouting, but because you are the only one who isn't drowning. This is biological dominance. It is the silent authority of the person who refuses to be moved. To build adaptive resonance, you must master the internal anchor. Before you walk into any social or professional interaction, you must perform a sovereign alignment. You don't ask, what do they want from me? Or how should I act? Instead, you ask, what is the atmosphere I am bringing into this space? You pre-decide your state. You decide that you are the ocean and they are the waves. The waves can crash, they can spray, they can foam, but they can never move the ocean. When you are resonated in your own purpose, your non-verbal cues, your eye contact, your posture, your micro-expressions become congruent. There is no leakage. You become a single, solid beam of presence. Imagine you are a cellist tuning an entire orchestra. When you strike your A string, it doesn't matter if the violins are out of tune or the flutes are screeching. You don't change your note to match theirs. You hold your note. You hold it loudly, clearly, and consistently. Eventually, one by one, the other instruments begin to adjust. They find your frequency. The discord turns into harmony. This is how you lead. You don't argue people into agreement. You resonate them into alignment. You stay calm and positive, not as a favor to them, but as a requirement for your command. I want to tell you about a man named Marcus. Marcus was a crisis negotiator who worked in life and death situations. He often had to speak with people who were in the middle of a psychotic break or a violent rage. Marcus never raised his voice. He never argued. He would sit in the middle of the screaming and the chaos and speak in a low, slow, rhythmic tone. He would maintain soft, unblinking eye contact, and then something shifted. The agitated person would slowly begin to quiet down, and their body language would shift from aggressive to submissive. They weren't giving up, they were resonating. They were being pulled into Marcus's field of calm. Marcus realized that presence is a gravity. The heavier your internal certainty, the more pull you have on the reality of others. He didn't use tactics, he used weight. He architected a space of safety so resonant that the chaos simply couldn't exist within it. The lesson is this: you are the author of the atmosphere. If you want respect, be respectful to yourself first. If you want calm, be the calmest person in the room. If you want positivity, exude it as a non-negotiable fact. Adaptive resonance is the final stage of environmental mastery. It is the realization that the internal always informs the external. When you master the vibration of your own soul, you master the world. So, as you move through your day, practice the resonant walk. When you enter a room, pause at the threshold for 1 second. Settle into your core. Feel your frequency. Decide that you are the tuning fork. Watch how the people around you begin to shift to match you. You aren't trying to lead, you are simply refusing to follow their distraction. And then something will shift. You will realize that staying calm is your greatest power play. You will experience the effortless authority of the resonator. In the next chapter, we will explore the legacy of stillness and how your peace becomes a gift to the world. Chapter 10. The Legacy of Stillness. We have come a long way together. We have dismantled the ghost of overthinking, built the fortress of routine, and mastered the alchemy of response. But the final secret of staying calm and positive is that it was never just for you. Your internal peace is a public service. In a world that is starving for stability, your stillness is bread, your calm is water, your positivity is light. This is the legacy of stillness. It is the realization that by saving yourself, you offer the world the permission to save itself too. The psychology of pro-social peace is the ultimate evolution of self-growth. When you reach a state of unshakable calm, you stop being a consumer of energy and start being a radiator of it. You become what researchers call a positive deviant, someone who thrives in an environment where others falter. This doesn't just make you successful, it makes you essential. You become the anchor for your family, the compass for your team, and the sanctuary for your friends. Your presence becomes a silent message that says, it is possible to be okay, it is possible to be happy, it is possible to be free. To anchor this legacy, you must move from learning to embodying. The tools we have discussed are no longer techniques you use. They are facets of who you are. You don't try to stay positive, you are positivity in motion. You don't struggle to stay calm, you are the stillness at the center of the storm. This is integration. It is the point where the effort ends and the essence begins. You have surrendered the suitcase for good. You are walking into your future with empty hands and an infinite heart. Imagine you are a lighthouse on a rocky coast. You don't run out into the water to save the ships. You don't scream at the waves to stop. You just stand and you shine. Your job is simply to keep your light burning. The ships navigate because of you, but they don't own you. The storm rages around you, but it doesn't move you. You are a fixed point in a fluid world. This is the highest form of leadership. It is leading by being. I want to tell you one last story about a man named Elias. Elias was a grandfather who had lived through wars, famines, and losses. He had every reason to be bitter and loud. Instead, he was the quietest, kindest man in his village. He spent his days sitting on a wooden bench under a large oak tree, carving small wooden figures for the children. He didn't give advice. He didn't lecture. He just was. And then something shifted. People started coming to Elias's bench just to sit with him. They would arrive stressed, angry, or confused, and after 10 minutes of sitting in Elias's silence, they would leave calm. They called it the Elias effect. Elias didn't do anything to them. he just held the space. He had refined his internal state so deeply that his stillness was contagious. When Elias passed away, the whole village felt a void, not because they missed his words, but because they missed his vibration. He left a legacy of stillness that lasted for generations. The lesson is this: your peace is the most powerful thing you own. It is the only thing the world cannot give you, and the only thing the world cannot take away, unless you let it. You have learned the simple solution. You have discovered that overthinking is a choice, and calm is a commitment. You are no longer a victim of your mind. You are the master of your reality. As you step into the rest of your life,
So I want you to take this stillness with you. Don't leave it in this recording. Carry it into your kitchen. Carry it into your office. Carry it into your arguments. Be the eye, be the anchor, be the light. You don't need to fix the world. You just need to refuse to add to its chaos. And then everything will shift. You will look back on the person you were before you heard these words, the stressed, overthinking, reactive person. And you will feel a deep sense of compassion. You will realize that they were just sleeping, and now, finally, you are awake. Welcome home. Chapter 11. The Architecture of Adaptive Resonance. We often think of influence as something we do to others, a set of words, a tone of voice, a power play. But true charismatic dominance is not an external act.
It is an internal frequency that forces the environment to tune itself to you. This is adaptive resonance. It is the ability to remain so grounded in your own reality that the world around you has no choice but to vibrate at your speed. Most people are reactors. They enter a room and unconsciously mirror the tension, the pace, and the energy of those already there. But the leader is a resonator. They do not mirror the room. They command the room to mirror them. This chapter is about the architecture of that resonance. It is about realizing that your presence is the tone that sets the tune for everyone else. The psychology of emotional contagion proves that humans are biologically wired to synchronize with the most stable nervous system in the group. If you enter a high-stress meeting with a frantic energy, you are simply adding fuel to the fire. You are resonating with the chaos. But if you enter that same meeting with a deep, slow, unshakable calm, the other nervous systems in the room will begin to entrain with yours. Their heart rates will slow. Their breathing will deepen. They will look to you not because you are shouting, but because you are the only one who isn't drowning. This is biological dominance. It is the silent authority of the person who refuses to be moved. To build adaptive resonance, you must master the internal anchor. Before you walk into any social or professional interaction, you must perform a sovereign alignment. You don't ask, "What do they want from me?" or "How should I act?" Instead, you ask, "What is the atmosphere I am bringing into this space?" You pre-decide your state. Or do you decide that you are the ocean and they are the waves? The waves can crash, they can spray, they can foam, but they can never move the ocean. When you are resonated in your own purpose, your non-verbal cues, your eye contact, your posture, your micro-expressions become congruent. There is no leakage. You become a single, solid beam of presence. Imagine you are a cellist tuning an entire orchestra. When you strike a string, it doesn't matter if the violins are out of tune or the flutes are screeching. You don't change your note to match theirs. You hold your note, you hold it loudly, clearly, and consistently. Eventually, one by one, the other instruments begin to adjust. They find your frequency. The discord turns into harmony. This is how you lead. You don't argue people into agreement. You resonate them into alignment. You stay calm and positive, not as a favor to them, but as a requirement for your command. I want to tell you about a man named Marcus. Marcus was a crisis negotiator who worked in life and death situations. He often had to speak with people who were in the middle of a psychotic break or a violent rage. Marcus never raised his voice. He never argued. He would sit in the middle of the screaming and the chaos and speak in a low, slow, rhythmic tone. He would maintain soft, unblinking eye contact. And then something shifted. The agitated person would slowly begin to quiet down. Their body language would shift from aggressive to submissive. They weren't giving up, and they were resonating. They were being pulled into Marcus's field of calm. Marcus realized that presence is a gravity. The heavier your internal certainty, the more pull you have on the reality of others. He didn't use tactics. He used weight. He architected a space of safety so resonant that the chaos simply couldn't exist within it. The lesson is this: you are the author of the atmosphere. If you want respect, be respectful to yourself first. If you want calm, be the calmest person in the room. And if you want positivity, exude it as a non-negotiable fact. Adaptive resonance is the final stage of environmental mastery. It is the realization that the internal always informs the external. When you master the vibration of your own soul, you master the world. As you move through your day, practice the resonant walk. When you enter a room, pause at the threshold for 1 second. Settle into your core. Feel your frequency. Decide that you are the tuning fork. Watch how the people around you begin to shift to match you. You aren't trying to lead. You are simply refusing to follow their distraction. And then something will shift. And you will realize that staying calm is your greatest power play. You will experience the effortless authority of the resonator. In the next chapter, we will explore the legacy of stillness. We will look at how your peace becomes a gift to the world and how to anchor these lessons for a lifetime. Are you ready for the final integration? Chapter 12. The legacy of stillness. We have come a long way together. We have dismantled the ghost of overthinking, built the fortress of routine, and mastered the alchemy of response. But the final secret of staying calm and positive is that it was never just for you. And your internal peace is a public service. In a world that is starving for stability, your stillness is bread, your calm is water, your positivity is light. This is the legacy of stillness. It is the realization that by saving yourself, you offer the world the permission to save itself too. The psychology of pro-social peace is the ultimate evolution of self-growth. When you reach a state of unshakable calm, you stop being a consumer of energy and start being a radiator of it. You become what researchers call a positive deviant, someone who thrives in an environment where others falter. This doesn't just make you successful, it makes you essential. You become the anchor for your family, the compass for your team, and the sanctuary for your friends. Your presence becomes a silent message that says, it is possible to be okay, it is possible to be happy, it is possible to be free. To anchor this legacy, you must move from learning to embodying. The tools we have discussed are no longer techniques you use, they are facets of who you are. You don't try to stay positive, you are positivity in motion. You don't struggle to stay calm. You are the stillness at the center of the storm. This is integration. It is the point where the effort ends and the essence begins. You have surrendered the suitcase for good. You are walking into your future with empty hands and an infinite heart. Imagine you are a lighthouse on a rocky coast. You don't run out into the water to save the ships. You don't scream at the waves to stop. You just stand and you shine. Your job is simply to keep your light burning. The ships navigate because of you, but they don't own you. The storm rages around you, but it doesn't move you. You are a fixed point in a fluid world. This is the highest form of leadership. It is leading by being. I want to tell you one last story about a man named Elias. Quick Elias was a grandfather who had lived through wars, famines, and losses. He had every reason to be bitter and loud. Instead, he was the quietest, kindest man in his village. He spent his days sitting on a wooden bench under a large oak tree, carving small wooden figures for the children. He didn't give advice, he didn't lecture, he just was. And then something shifted. People started coming to Elias's bench just to sit with him. They would arrive stressed, angry, or confused. And after 10 minutes of sitting in Elias's silence, they would leave calm. They called it the Elias effect. Elias didn't do anything to them. He just held the space. He had refined his internal state so deeply that his stillness was contagious. When Elias passed away, about the whole village felt a void, not because they missed his words, but because they missed his vibration. He left a legacy of stillness that lasted for generations. The lesson is this: your peace is the most powerful thing you own. It is the only thing the world cannot give you, and the only thing the world cannot take away unless you let it. You have learned the simple solution. You have discovered that overthinking is a choice and calm is a commitment. You are no longer a victim of your mind. You are the master of your reality. As you step into the rest of your life, I want you to take this stillness with you.
Don't leave it in this audiobook. Carry it into your kitchen. Carry it into your office. Carry it into your arguments. Be the eye. Be the anchor. Be the light. You don't need to fix the world. You just need to refuse to add to its chaos. And then everything will shift. You will look back on the person you were before you heard these words. The stressed, overthinking, reactive person. And you will feel a deep sense of compassion. You will realize that they were just sleeping. And now, finally, you are awake. The journey is complete. The solution is simple. The life you have been waiting for is starting right now. Chapter 13. The Radiance of the Unbothered Soul. You are standing in the middle of a crowded, frantic train station during rush hour. 100 people are sprinting past you, their faces tight with a frantic desperation, their eyes glued to the flickering departures board. The air is thick with the friction of 1,000 competing anxieties. In the past, you would have felt that friction in your own skin. You would have checked your watch every 10 seconds, your heart matching the jagged rhythm of the crowd. But today, you are standing perfectly still. You are leaning against a pillar, watching the chaos flow around you like water around a stone. You aren't trying to be calm, you simply are calm. You have realized that the noise of the world is a choice, and you have chosen silence. This is the radiance of the unbothered soul. The relatable problem we face is vibrational entrainment. Humans are social mirrors. If the person next to us is vibrating with anxiety,
then we unconsciously begin to match their frequency. We catch stress like a virus. We think we are being empathetic by being worried along with our friends, or diligent by being stressed along with our co-workers. But matching the chaos doesn't help the chaos, it only multiplies it. When you are anxious because the world is anxious, you have lost your sovereignty. You have become a reaction instead of an action. Psychologically, we are exploring the internal locus of control. Most people live with an external locus. They believe that their positivity is a reaction to good events. But the unbothered soul has moved the anchor inside. To stay quiet in your mind, you must realize that peace is a decision you make before the day begins, not a reward you receive at the end of it. Or you move from "I hope today goes well" to "I will be well regardless of how today goes." This preemptive piece is the final kill switch for overthinking. Imagine you are a giant redwood tree. There is a storm raging in the canopy. The branches are whipping, the leaves being stripped away, and the wind is screaming through the needles. If you were only the leaves, you would be terrified. But you are the trunk, you are the roots. Deep underground, where the real life of the tree happens, there is absolute stillness. The storm is real, but it is superficial. It is happening to you, but it is not you. Staying calm is the act of descending into your trunk. I want to tell you about a woman named Elena. Elena was an emergency room nurse in one of the busiest hospitals in the country. What her environment was the definition of anxiety. Screaming sirens, life or death decisions, and grieving families were her daily bread. For years, Elena absorbed the trauma. She was burned out, negative, and overthinking every mistake she might have made. And then something shifted. Elena began to study the Stoic concept of apatheia, not indifference, but freedom from passionate disturbance. She realized that for her to be the best nurse, she had to be the calmest person in the room. She started to treat the chaos as information rather than emotion. When a crisis arrived, she would pause for 1 second, drop her shoulders, and enter her inner stillness. The doctors and patients began to notice. They called her the anchor. When Elena was on shift, the anxiety of the entire floor dropped. She didn't do anything differently, she just vibrated at a different speed. By refusing to be bothered by the chaos, she became the source of the solution. She realized that quiet isn't a luxury, so it's a superpower. She became unshakably positive because she stopped fighting the storm and started being the center of it. The lesson is this: your mind is a refuge, not a battlefield. When you quiet your anxious mind, you aren't just helping yourself. You are creating a clearing in the forest where others can finally breathe. Your stillness is permission. When people see that you are unbothered, they realize that they don't have to be bothered either. You lead by existing in a state that others envy. To practice this, and engage in the eye of the storm drill. Today, when you find yourself in a high-stress environment, a loud office, a traffic jam, a family argument, don't contribute. Don't add your voice to the noise. Withdraw into your trunk. Watch the wind whip the leaves, but feel the solid weight of your roots. Smile inwardly at the chaos. You are safe, you are quiet, you are here. And then something will shift. You will realize that anxiety is a performance that you have stopped auditioning for. You will radiate a calm that is mysterious to the world. You are no longer searching for quiet, you are the source of it. In the next chapter, we will explore the architecture of the eternal now, and we will learn how to live in a way that anxiety can never find you again. Are you ready for the final arrival? Chapter 14, the architecture of the eternal. Now, you have been running for a long time. You have been running toward a future where you are finally happy. You have been running away from a past where you made mistakes. You are exhausted. Your anxious mind is the engine of that running. It tells you just a little further, just one more goal, just fix this one problem. But the future is a ghost and the past is a graveyard. The only place where quiet actually exists is right here. This is the architecture of the eternal now. This is the end of the journey and the beginning of life. The relatable problem we face is chronological displacement. We are physically in the present, but mentally in the not yet. We overthink because we are trying to live in a time that doesn't exist. We are anxious because we are grieving for tomorrow, before it has even happened. This split in our consciousness is the root of all mental noise. You cannot be calm in the future, you can only be calm in the now. Psychologically, mind this is radical presence, to quiet your anxious mind. Every time you must collapse the timeline. You must realize that you are never dealing with your whole life. You are only ever dealing with this single breath, this single task, this single step. When you shrink your world to the size of the present moment, the weight of anxiety evaporates. The processor cools down because it no longer has to calculate an infinite number of potential futures. Imagine you are a photographer. Your anxious mind is a wide-angle lens trying to capture the entire horizon of your life. It's distorted, it's blurry, it's overwhelming. Presence is switching to a macro lens. You focus on the texture of the table in front of you, with the sound of the clock, the weight of your feet on the floor. Suddenly the image is sharp, it is clear, it is silent, the horizon is still there, but it is no longer your responsibility. Your job is just to see what is in focus. Let me tell you the story of a man named Koji. Koji was a master gardener in Kyoto. He spent his days raking a Zen rock garden. To an outsider, the job looked boring and repetitive. One day, a young, stressed executive visited the temple and asked Koji, "How can you do this every day? Don't you worry about the future? Don't you get anxious about the big problems of the world?" Koji paused his rake. He looked at the single line he had just drawn in the sand. "When I am raking this line," Koji said, "the big problems do not exist. There is only the sand and the rake. If I worry about the next line, I ruin this line. And if I ruin this line, my life is a mess. I am not gardening to finish the garden. I am gardening to be the garden." And then something shifted in the executive. He realized that his anxiety was just a refusal to rake the current line. He was trying to rake the whole garden in his mind, and it was paralyzing him. And Koji was unshakably positive because he had nowhere else to be. He wasn't waiting for quiet, he was creating it with every movement of his hands. He had architected his life so that anxiety had no space to land. The lesson is this: quiet is a side effect of arrival. When you stop trying to get somewhere else, the noise in your head stops because its job is done. The anxious mind is a navigator. If you are already home, you don't need a navigator. You stay calm by recognizing that this moment is exactly where you are supposed to be. Positivity is the natural state of a mind that has stopped fighting reality. As you finish this chapter, I want you to take one final breath. Don't think about what you are going to do next. Don't think about what you just heard. Just be the one who is listening to the silence at the end of the sentence. Look at the room. Feel your heart. You have arrived. The legacy of stillness is now yours. The solution is simple because the truth is simple. You were never broken. You were just distracted. Now you are quiet. Now you are positive. Now you are free. Chapter 15. The Unshakable Foundation. You are standing at the edge of the ocean as the tide begins to pull back. Beneath your feet, the wet sand feels solid at first, but as the water rushes over your toes, the ground starts to dissolve. You feel yourself sinking, tilting, and grasping for balance. Oh, this is how most people experience their mental life. They build their calm on the shifting sands of external circumstances. They are positive only when the world is kind, and quiet only when the room is silent. But as you have learned throughout this journey, true peace cannot be a fair-weather friend. It must be something deeper. It must be the bedrock beneath the sand. This final chapter is about the unshakable foundation, the point where you stop trying to stay calm and realize that you are the stillness itself. The relatable problem we face is the fragility of progress. You might fear that once this chapter ends, the noise will return. You worry that the next crisis will shatter your fortress and leave you back at the beginning, drowning in overthinking. But this fear is actually the final gasp of the anxious mind. It wants to convince you that your peace is a temporary state rather than a permanent identity. It wants you to believe that quiet is a glass ornament that can be broken rather than a mountain that can only be weathered. Psychologically, we are moving from state-level calm to trait-level equanimity. A state is a passing mood. A trait is a fundamental part of your character. To stay quiet and positive every time, you must undergo a neurobiological shift. You are no longer practicing these tools, you are living them. Your brain has begun to prune the old frantic pathways and strengthen the new, resonant ones. You have moved from active construction to passive sovereignty. You don't have to work to be calm anymore. It's because reaction is no longer your default. Imagine you are a bell. When the world strikes you with a hammer of crisis, what sound do you make? If you are a bell made of tin, you make a thin, discordant clang that hurts the ears. But if you are a masterpiece cast in bronze, you produce a deep, rich, resonant tone that vibrates with authority. The hammer is the same, but the result is different because the material is different. The unshakable foundation is the process of recasting your soul into bronze. You stay calm not because the world stopped hitting you, but because you have changed the frequency of your response. Let me tell you one final story about a woman named Clara. Clara was a high-value architect who had spent her life building towers of steel and glass. She was a perfectionist, and her anxiety was the fuel for her success. But when a massive earthquake struck her city, many of her buildings, the ones she thought were solid, cracked and failed. Clara was devastated. She felt like her life's work and her mental peace had collapsed at once. And then something shifted. Clara traveled to an ancient temple in the mountains that had survived for 1,000 years despite countless quakes. She asked the head monk how the stone structure remained unshakable while modern steel snapped. The monk led her to the foundation and showed her that the stones were not glued or welded together. They were balanced. They were designed to shift with the earth, absorb the shock, and return to center. The foundation wasn't rigid, but it was adaptive. Clara realized that her anxious mind was trying to be rigid. She was trying to fight the earthquakes of life with brute force. She returned home and began to build her internal foundation the same way. She stopped resisting the stress and started absorbing it. She stopped overthinking the cracks and started balancing her presence. She became permanently calm because she realized that strength isn't the absence of movement, it is the certainty of return. She didn't survive the next crisis, she resonated through it. The lesson for you is this: you are now self-correcting. The legacy of stillness is not about never feeling anxious again. It is about knowing the way back so well that you never stay lost for more than a breath. Or you are the master of the return. Your foundation is unshakable because it is fluid. You stay positive because you know that gravity always pulls you back to center. You have quietened your mind by integrating the noise into the music. As you walk into the rest of your story, I want you to trust the recasting. You are no longer the tin bell, you are the bronze. When life strikes you, listen to the tone you produce. It is deep, it is rich, it is quiet, it is you. You don't need to hold onto these lessons anymore. They are in your blood. They are in your breath. The hurricane has no power here. The sand has turned to stone. The anxious mind has found its peace. You are unshakable. You are ready. You are free.